Hello and welcome to the museum. This is the Mid-Ohio Historical Museum. We are a museum of dolls and toys, and we say that the dolls are just historical statements. So we have dolls that are educational, cultural, and just everything. So you're going to really love it here. And I will take you on a very quick tour of the museum, just an overview to give you an idea of what we have here. So follow me and we'll just do a little bit of fun as we go through the museum. Well, this is our first little room, which we have actually catered to the younger people in this room. So we have things very recent as Moana and Frozen and such, and that's because a lot of grandmas bring their little ones in, and it makes the little ones feel like this is their room too. You will see like the Flintstones in there, Yogi Bear, and a lot of things that not just the young, but you know what, we all can appreciate this because we grew up with our children and we are really familiar with all these little items. I especially like the little Flintstone guy down there. That is Fred on the Dino, the work Dino. So he is busy that day. You're looking at a case that has some of our classic stories. Of course, you have Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs in there, oh, the Little Rascals, everybody loves them. And even the Toy Story, which is rather new, which the little youngsters love because they like to try to guess all those little characters in there. I think they're all in there from the story. And then we can't forget Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. This is from the 1970s. You're looking at the Grow Hair dolls, Chrissy and her family. Oh, the little girls love this doll because they could make her hair grow just by pushing a button and pulling the ponytail out. On top, we have another era of dolls. These are the Chatty Cathys, and they're from 1960. So as you've noticed, I do have things rather categorized so that you can really learn as you go through the museum. Of course, we also have the Strawberry Shortcake up there, and lots of the little friends that go with it. Of course, we can't forget Harry Potter. He did make a big splash in our history. And you also will see the Twilight. A lot of people saw that. You're looking at a wonderful collection of Shirley Temples from the 1930s. They all have their original clothing on and they're in just wonderful condition. Now on the right side, you will see some of the later Shirleys starting like 1959, and they're from 59 to the 1980s in that particular side. Those are all the American Girl dolls. That's one of the more popular dolls of today. A fun thing about the American Girl dolls is you can buy all of the accessories that go with them, and they're all from a certain time in history. So there's also books that go with these dolls, so they are very educational, and the youngsters really love them. Of course, there's always Kaya. She's the little Indian girl, and she's standing right next to her little teepee. She does have her little pet dog with her. And then, of course, you know, dolls that make big statements in our culture, such as the Cabbage Patch dolls, in this case right here. They also made a big hit in 1983, and we just have a few of them in here to refresh your memory. These marionettes are really quite interesting. I'll have to tell you a little short story about them. A couple years ago, a little gentleman called me and asked me if I'd be interested in some Christmas marionettes. And of course, I can't turn down anything. And so I naturally said yes, thinking probably 2 or 3. Well, here this gentleman comes with 38 of these marionettes. They are all from the story of Scrooge. And we spent about the whole winter getting them ready for display. And once we got them ready, they were just wonderful. This is really a wonderful work of folk art. It has never been done before. Imagine somebody making 38 marionettes from the story of Scrooge. It is really a rarity and just an incredible work of art. This is a case of antique China dolls, dating in here from the 1860s up to the early 1900s. The interesting thing about China dolls is that they are dated by their hairstyle. We're walking by a little case of dollhouse dolls. They are in little separate rooms, and there is a lot of detail in them. It's very interesting. You could spend 15 minutes looking in every little case. We're looking at a case that is actually dedicated to Jackie Kennedy and the family. There's some really special pieces in there, as you can see. The small doll down on the bottom is a picture of Jackie with her little girl Caroline, and that little doll next to her was made of Caroline at that time. Now the two large dolls on the top, one on the left, the one in pink, and the one on the right in the blue, those were actually made of Jackie. The pink one when Jackie was only 6 years old. Of course, we're kind of surfing by that wonderful doll of John as he salutes his father's casket, and that is such a very famous photo. And the doll on the right in the blue is of Jackie when she was just a little bit older. And many of the other dolls just show her different gowns and outfits that she wore at various state occasions. Some people say the Kennedys was our royals in the United States, but this is the royals from England. You see Queen Elizabeth, and those two little dolls in front of her are wonderfully done. They are the children, Prince Charles and Princess Anne, when they were very young. And of course, we see many shots of Diana in there as well. And Princess Margaret's even hiding in there. She's in the pink gown. We're looking at some very significant artist dolls from some of the major artists from around the world. The little doll down there on the left, she is just so well done. And of course, we had to give her some little eggs and a little chicken to make her even more exciting. And the little school bell as she is off to school that morning. Another one that is so special is the little girl that is on the horse. And she is made by a German artist. Her name is Heidi Plussak. And everybody just can't believe the detail on that little girl, but she does look just like she's riding that horsey and having a great time. The Alice in Wonderland collection is actually taken from the original story of Alice, when those characters did look kind of mean in there. And they are so well done. Of course, you see all of them. You see the twins in there, Tweedledee and Tweedledum. And of course, that little lady there in the corner in the purple, that is the Duchess. But the fun thing about the Duchess, and this just tickles the children, is when she puts the baby down, you know, the baby turns into a piggy and runs away. But if you notice down into the little mirror there, you see the piggy in the front, but if you look in the mirror, you see the little baby in the mirror. I'll give you another little history lesson. This is about the WPA puppets. They are hand puppets, but I have stuffed them so that they have a little bit of form so I could set them on stands. The one in the corner, Peter Cottontail, is rather well used, but the one in the center, which is Little Red Riding Hood, she has never been used. She's in wonderful condition. We're walking by a case here of Christmas items. Christmas then and now, from 1900 down to 1950, although I did put a little 60s Chatty Cathy in there just for fun. Of course, we like to cater to everybody, all different ages in the museum. And so there's a certain age group that just loves to see these G.I. Joes. It's really a nice collection of G.I. Joes. We have some rare ones in there as well. And of course, the Star Wars takes in another era. I think they came out in about 1978, and so there's a lot of people who can name every one of these characters in this display. We have a very important collection of cloth dolls. Our cloth dolls date in here from about the 1850s with your Isana Walker, and it goes down through early 1900s, which would include some of the Kathy Cruz, Stife, the Lenchies, the Camkins, and just too many to mention. The piggies are absolutely mint. I mean, it is just so rare to see something like that. And we have another wonderful set, which is almost mint, that are from Wichita, Kansas. And they will be on the bottom section of this case. The interesting thing about the WPA dolls is they always represented a particular country. These dolls were made in Wichita, Kansas, and they have their country name on the front of them, and it's also marked WPA and Wichita, Kansas. So there's usually not a mystery about the WPA pieces. However, a very interesting note, as I mentioned earlier, that these particular type of WPA, these little puppets, were made out of newspaper. Well, my first little puppet that I got was a wolf and the piggy. And that wolf on the bottom, it may be hard to see it, but the paint is off of his nose, and you could actually see the newsprint. People get a kick out of trying to name all of these characters also. And it's just, something that will give everybody a little chuckle and lighten things up as they go through the museum. Of course, we all remember Carol Burnett and her skit when she came down the stairs with that dress that was made from the drapes. This is just a nice little display of Disney memorabilia. We do have some very special pieces in there, like the original Mickey Mouse, the original Donald Duck, Snow White and Seven Dwarfs, and Jiminy Cricket, oh, you name it. Just a fun display. Of course, those are the little dwarfs there on the bottom right. From right after the movie come out, those are the Disney faces. As you can focus on the top right, you will see several very important early wind-up toys. And what's so much fun about them is they're not riding a pony, they are riding piggies. So we have Patty and the pig in there, and also Uncle Sam as he's riding his piggy. Those are early 1900. And of course, this is Bapsville. The Baps were made by a lady who had lost her family during World War II, and in order to support herself, she started to create these little dolls. They are either fairy tales or nursery rhymes, and we have a wonderful collection of those, probably one of the most important that you'll find anywhere, because there weren't that many of them made. We even have the very rare Donald Duck, which sits in front of Peter Pumpkin Eater. This is just a very nice collection of the early Scarlet dolls that was made by Madame Alexander. Right after that movie came out in probably the late 30s, 38 or 39. One of our American classics, Gone with the Wind. You will see a little vignette of Teddy Roosevelt when he did his African safari. Those are Schoenhut dolls. Those are all wooden and from the early 1900s. Quite important dolls in the art of collection. There's many other dolls in here in this case. Most of them are play dolls. We even have a couple personality dolls in here, like a Baby Snooks, which most people have never heard of if they are of a very young age. But she is the little one in the far right on the top in the red print dress. That was Baby Snooks. We're in our very important room here, which contains the antique dolls, the very rare French and German dolls. We have a very significant collection. And then we have dolls that just continue down through the ages with all of your rare bisque dolls, the French and German, as I noticed, or mentioned, I should say, including some things such as the AT, the Bru, the Jumeau, and all of those significant French dolls, and many, many of the samples of the German dolls from many different manufacturers. Of course, our museum, you cannot look any place in here or in the entire museum without seeing something. I mean, the dolls are everywhere. We just have so many. All right, we're looking in a case that has so many things, including the very early Humpty Dumpty Circus by Schoenhut from about 1902, 1903. Of course, remember, we've seen the Teddy Roosevelt. Well, these are all very important wooden pieces that were made in Philadelphia by the artist Albert Schoenhut. You're looking at a very rare piece here. This is called the Piano Baby from 1886. It's a very high-end piece. It's a music box, and it plays 4 different melodies. And when you key wind it, she actually moves her little head and her hands across the keys. And there are so many, many other very significant pieces in here. We just can't tell you all about them. And we do ask everybody who is viewing this video to please come visit the museum. We're in Barbie Land right now, and it's not just a bunch of dolls either. It's just like everything else, very significant. We have the #1 Barbie. And what's even more important is we have the German Lily, which is the doll that the Barbie was designed from. Now, the German Lily is the little girl in front with the red skirt on. And when Ruth Handler went to Germany and saw that doll, she decided that was the one she wanted to make for her little girls. She had to buy a lot of different dolls in order to get different outfits. So you see, her wheels began to turn, and that is what made our Barbie doll so very successful. You could buy one doll and many, many different outfits. Barbie had an awful lot of friends, you know. She had her little sister, she had her cousins, etc. So there was a whole family of Barbies also. And we have just a wonderful collection here in the museum of Barbie and all of her friends. We are viewing what we call the boys' room, which just has many, many characters in here from, all throughout the ages, actually. So you'll see, what was his name? Indiana Jones in there, and Spider-Man, and oh my gosh, so many others. Just things that children, especially boys, used to like, these action figures. We've got the little tin coaster car. They have the original Rolf puppets in them that's driving that little car there. And it just continues on down here to some of the more fun things like Captain Kangaroo, some of the puppets like Howdy Doody. Of course, we've got Mortimer Snurt in there. Just so many different things. I even see Charlie Chaplin up there on the top. My goodness. Okay, you're looking at a case that contains some really fun things again, like the Planet of the Apes. Of course, we've got the Beatles. Oh my, Laverne and Shirley, believe it or not. So many characters. There are some historical pieces in there also with General MacArthur from the 1940s. And that is a wonderful rendering of the artist dolls by Mamie and Ike in there. Okay, we're walking by a wonderful little case of babies that people really enjoyed. They were just play dolls. Oh my, you see tiny tears in there, and what else do we see in there? Just many little play dolls. I think there's probably a Thumbelina in there and so forth. We're looking at the bottom case here on the right, and you will see some of the Heartland toys. Those were really hard plastic. The little boys just loved them. They were mostly cowboys and Indian type. Of course, there's Annie Oakley also in there with the little pink outfit. And we do a lot of the Girl Scout groups, and of course we have a nice collection of the Girl Scouts and even a couple of Boy Scouts in here. And on the top, you're going to see some very significant older items, such as the original Betty Boops from the 1930s. You're seeing little Lulu and Tubby and Elvin, Eloise, oh my goodness, so many little guys, and even Dennis the Menace. We do have the original Charles Lindbergh here from the late 1920s. We have a really nice case here of international dolls. Of course, the children study these countries in school, so they enjoy these dolls. However, some of the more significant ones in here, which are not souvenir dolls, would be your Door of Hope dolls. They were made in the early 1900s to support the missionaries in China. They have their original clothing on, which is just like the people wore in those days. And so they are indeed a wonderful historical statement. We're We're walking by a case that has a wonderful collection of little play dolls. You see the Jenny dolls in here, the Nancy Ann storybooks, and of course the wonderful collection of Little Red Riding Hood, one of my favorite childhood stories. There's also some interesting doll furniture in there as well. Some of the Renoir, the Tootsie Toy. This back case is just a quick view of play dolls, some of the more significant ones from the 1950s, a couple of 40s in there, and some maybe a little later. They are very, very sought after and very collectible dolls. But another one of our more important historical pieces would be our original Raggedy Ann and Andy from 1918, and they were made by a company called Voland. And of course, everybody should know the story of Raggedy Ann, and if they don't, they need to research it because it is so interesting. We also have another significant historical item here, which is, of course, the original Dion quintuplets. There's a great story that also goes with those, which is something you also need to research. Madame Alexander got the rights to make the Dion quintuplets in the 1930s when they were born. She became very famous with the Dion quintuplets because many, many sets of those were born. We're going to be viewing the circus collection, which is another one of the kind that we have here in the museum. All of these pieces were created by Charles Russell. When he was a child, of course, that was his favorite thing, was going to the circus, which was a lot different then than it is now. This is just the circus train with all of the different cars and so forth. We all remember Emmett Kelly as a very favorite clown, and his son Emmett Kelly Jr. was here early when we got the circus and signed this particular doll for me. Of course, the circus would not be complete without the midway rides. You may not recognize some of these, but they are, again, from the 40s and 50s and maybe even before. But remember, all of these things was animated when Charles made them. So he did have everything motorized. We don't operate it for the general public simply because we don't have gentlemen here to maintain our motors and so forth. Since they are very old and they're attached underneath the circus platform, it would be very hard to probably maintain them. Of course, the circus would not be complete without a roller coaster. And we have a lot of little children in front of the roller coaster. They're just getting ready to take a ride. Most of those are the Patty Playpal family from the 1950s. Of course, you see some of the other circus wagons in the back. You see the big pole wagon, which was used to put up the main tent. And the water wagon, and I think the other one was one of the catering, probably the galley. But the whole circus is very complete and very detailed. I think the merry-go-round might have been the first part of the circus that he created. The concession stand, and oh my goodness, remember you could buy an ice cream cone for a nickel. Thank you so much for coming to visit the museum. I did give you a very quick overview, but I hope that you did enjoy it. And as you probably noticed, we do not have just a bunch of dolls, but we do have the more significant dolls that if you did your research, etc., you would be able to find and even find out more about them. So thank you for coming, and I hope you enjoyed it. Our official name is kind of long. It is the Mid-Ohio Historical Museum, but we do call ourselves the Doll and Toy Museum. Our phone number is area code 614-837-5573. We are located at 700 Winchester Pike in Canal Winchester, Ohio, and we have been here for over 35 years serving the public. We do have many services, including doll appraisals and the doll hospital. So very significant to the community. So come and see us.